Welcome back to the Canadian Citizens Journal. Today we are looking at Chapter 10 of our Constitutional Manual. This chapter is about how we change the Constitution, which is known as the Amendment Formula. For the first 115 years of Canada's history, we did not have a way to change our own supreme law. We had to ask the British Parliament to do it for us. That finally changed in 1982. But the leaders at the time were so worried about one province, or the federal government having too much power, that they made the new rules incredibly complicated. Hogg explains that there is not just one way to change the Constitution. There are actually 5 different formulas, depending on what you want to change. The most famous one is the general formula, often called the 7 and 50 rule. To change most things, you need the federal parliament plus the legislatures of at least 7 provinces that represent at least 50% of the total population. This is why it is so hard to get anything done. If Ontario and Quebec disagree, or if several smaller provinces band together, the change is dead. Then there is the unanimity rule. For the really big things, like the role of the king, the composition of the Supreme Court, or the English and French language rights, every single province and the federal government must agree. One province saying no can stop the entire country. Hogg notes that since these rules were put in place in 1982, we have had several major attempts to change the Constitution, such as the Meech Lake Accord and the Charlottetown Accord. Both failed. Because it is so hard to change the written text, the government often tries to find workarounds, or the courts change the meaning of the rules through their rulings instead. In 2026, many people are frustrated with the system. They want to reform the Senate, or change how elections work, or clarify provincial rights. But Chapter 10 shows us that the door to change is locked with multiple keys, and those keys are held by different politicians who rarely agree. Understanding the amendment formula helps us see why Canada is such a stable country, but also why it is so resistant to reform. The rules were written to make sure that no one person can reinvent the country overnight. Next time, we are moving into Chapter 11 to look at the role of the Crown and the Governor-General in more detail. Until then, keep looking at the evidence. This is the Canadian Citizens Journal.